A story that has grabbed the attention of the nation started with the arrest of a 19-year-old student from Dalton.
Yeah, I think I know where we're going with this one, Tut. So how about you just save us all some time and send her back now?
Ximena Arias-Cristobal was arrested by Dalton police after she turned right on red where there was a posted "No right on red" sign Monday morning.
You know, the one thing that sucks about being a Latino Trump supporter is that every time some Mexican gets squirrely and decides to jump a fence, suddenly the whole internet is hitting me up like, are you still happy with your vote? Are you still happy with your vote? Yes, I'm fine with my vote. And just because something like this happened doesn't mean it's an ism of the race type, because that's what buffoons were already starting to suggest, was because she got pulled over at that point, and how can a cop see from that far away? And stop with the conspiracies. If you do a little bit of reading, what you will find out is that one officer had seen her make the illegal right where there's a sign posted that says that you can't turn right. So then they went ahead and called out on the radio to see if another officer would do it. And it turns out that it was the wrong truck they pulled over because the description was a black Ford F-150. This girl happened to be driving a black Dodge Ram. And even though those are two completely different trucks, I'm sure the officer just thought full-size black truck and thought he had the right one, so he went ahead and pulled her over, and it turned out he did have the right one, just not the right one. But what gets on my nerves about this is that everybody was trying to turn it into something other than what it was. But if you actually watch the full video of her getting arrested, the officer doesn't seem to have any inkling or idea that she's not actually legal, and doesn't seem to be treating her any differently than he would treat anybody else that he had to pull over and eventually arrest. He even offered to take the keys to the truck to her mom's work in the video.
Do you want me to take the keys to your mom so Jenny can get her truck?
Which is something I've never heard of. Usually if you get pulled over in that situation, what I've seen happen is that they'll impound the car, or at best, they'll just leave the car there and let you figure it out when you get back, which she ended up declining.
No, it's fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah, my mom's busy at work. They don't let her.
Okay.
Probably because her mother's illegal too, so she didn't want to give up her mom's location and have the police go down there and pick up her mom as well, but we'll get to that.
Georgia state law requires that officers arrest anyone driving without a valid license.
Very important. Georgia state law requires that officers arrest anybody caught driving without a license. And the reason I'm stressing this is, again, people online were making it seem like they were singling her out and she shouldn't have been arrested. She should have just gotten a ticket. But Georgia state law requires that officers arrest anybody caught driving without a license. Then I saw some people saying that she should sue the officer because the officer gave her a pat down. He made sure to give the pat down in front of his dash cam. I'm sure that's why he told her to step back.
Do me a favor. Step away. Turn around. Back up a little bit.
And he gave her a very respectful back of the hand search that wasn't nearly what it could have been.
I'm going to search you. I'm going to use the back of my hand, okay?
And I'm sure it's just part of procedure if he's going to have somebody in the back of his car to shuttle them to jail.
The GoFundMe page has gained extreme attention, many choosing to donate.
Nearly $60,000 has been raised.
Girl, take the money and run. $60,000 USD is over 1 million pesos. You have achieved the American dream. Leave a winner.
The money's going towards paying for an immigration attorney to hopefully get her out of detainment.
But of course, typical immigrant thinking, you get $60,000 and you blow it on an immigration attorney. What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. All right, you guys. So this is Ximena Arias-Cristobal. Try saying that 5 times really fast. She was brought here by her parents when she was 4 years old. Now, 15 years later, she gets pulled over. They end up finding out she didn't have a license, got arrested. Then she ends up at a nice detention center. And now we're all supposed to act like we really care about it. And I'm wearing a Trump hat today, not only because I am still a Trump supporter, but more importantly, because I didn't feel like doing my hair. But when you are a Latino Trump supporter, everybody will get like, are you happy with your president? Do you see what your president has done? What? You mean the president that ran on the fact that he was going to be tough on illegal immigration is actually being tough on illegal immigration? Who could have seen this coming? I thought he was lying to us the whole time. And then there's the people that are like, do you see what he's doing to your people? I am a United States citizen. My people are my fellow citizens of the United States. I don't know how else to say that to people. And when people try to lump us culturally like that, those people don't even understand that that's not even the way Latino culture works. Especially if you're talking about Mexican Americans specifically, which is what I am. Heavy on the American, light on the Mexican. But if you don't know how that works out, when I was growing up, there was an expression my mom always used. It's an expression in Spanish, and it goes, Quien te manda? And what Quien te manda translates to is basically, who told you to do that? And that's the way I notice a lot of other Mexican Americans specifically kind of live their life. We're not always the most sympathetic to everybody. So when you come to us and you're like, do you see what happened to this girl? Well, one, she's from Mexico, so what happened to her? She's being sent home to where she's actually from? Because I can tell you guys 100%, if I'm ever found in another country for any reason at all, and I have overstayed my visa, you better believe I want to be sent back to the United States immediately. Something has gone horribly wrong. I don't know if I lost my passport. I'm a little too old to be trafficked, but I wouldn't put it past somebody. I'm a little too lazy for any kind of slave trade. Just putting that out there in case anybody has any ideas. But yeah, if you ever find me anywhere, I will be happy to be deported back to the United States. And that's what I think I don't get. And we're going to watch more from the story in a second. But that's what I really don't get about these people is they'll wrap themselves in Mexican flags and they'll make it seem like they're all about Mexico and they have all this Mexican pride. And then when somebody tries to send them back, they fight tooth and nail to stay in the United States. And I'm like, hey, what happened to all the Mexican love? I thought you being wrapped in that flag was your way of packaging yourself as send them back to Mexico. That's what I always thought. I don't know why otherwise you would be wrapped in a Mexican flag. But my point is, at the end of the day, talk to their mammy about it. Don't come over here talking to me because I'm not the one that brought her here. I didn't tell her to come here. I didn't insinuate it would be a good idea for her to be here. So as far as expecting me to protest or me to in any way have any feeling other than, yeah, it's just time for you to go, why would I do that? And so in this entire story, you'll notice there are several places where you could say, Quien te manda? Who told you to do that? Who told you to come to the United States? And I know your parents probably brought you here looking to live the American dream, but the reason it's called the American dream is because eventually you gotta wake up. And I also know there's gonna be some people that are like, but she's a nice girl and she's never been in trouble and she's going to college. To which I say, eh. She can do all of that in Mexico as well. And it's not that I'm happy to see these kinds of things happen. They're just a part of life. And I don't feel bad for anybody that that's happening to right now. If this had been closer to Inauguration Day, where people didn't know the way it was all going to play out, and maybe you thought Trump was going to keep getting gummed up like he did in his first administration, I get it. But we're what, 5 months in? And I think everybody kind of knows that he's not playing. And when there's those people that bring up, well, they said that they were going to go after the criminals first. Well, that's why you guys should listen a little bit more, because if you guys would actually watch full interviews instead of just paying attention to the little blurbs you see on the news or on TikTok, let me tell you, a lot of you buffoons are doing yourself a disservice. And when I say buffoons, I don't mean my audience, because most of you will inform me of things I didn't know. But when it comes to just a casual watcher that gets mad at me and is like, you're heartless and you better take off that hat, whatever else you guys are going to say, nyam, 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 nyam. nah. But what I'm trying to tell you is, if you would watch full interviews, you would know that this is the way it's going to go down. Tom Homan has said,
they may not be a criminal priority, but we're not walking away from them.
and that makes perfect sense, because our immigration laws and policies aren't specifically designed to only be enforced against people that aren't good people. Yeah, that's number one priority. But if we only enforced these laws when it was bad people, that would be just as good as not having immigration laws. Our borders are supposed to be respected just like anybody else. Like I mentioned, people finding me in another country and bringing me back to the United States. I would never have the gall, the audacity to believe that I could just decide that I was going to live in another country because I had just decided to live in another country. No work visa, no paperwork, but on my way out, I want due process. How about we start working on don't process? As in, you don't process your way into the country, we don't have to process you on the way out. It's a quick transaction. You're right, you snuck in, and now we sneak you right back out. Doesn't have to be a whole production, doesn't have to be a parade, doesn't have to be a lot of tears. If you have family here, you let them know. Hopefully they pack up and go with you. Right now, Trump is offering $1,000 in cash and a plane trip. That's better than what you're gonna get off most game shows. So, you played the game, you lost.
You're fired. Get out of here.
Now let's watch this story where they try to tug at our heartstrings and take it apart. Oh yeah, and before we go on, May 23rd, I'm in Los Angeles, California, performing with the one and only Leonardo Joni. If you want to see the show, hit me up on Instagram Messenger. I'll go ahead and make my Instagram link the pinned comment on this video. Now let's get on with it.
Tonight we learned more about the detainment of Ximena Arias-Cristobal. Police say the teenager made an illegal turn at an intersection. Investigators say she did not have a valid driver's license, and they took her into custody.
Once the Whitfield County Sheriff's Office had custody of Arias-Cristobal, they determined that she was not in the country legally.
Send her back. And sorry to stop so quickly into it, but I really am tired of this thinking that there's anything else to talk about once a person has been found to be in this country illegally. And I'm tired of the people with, this is just like Nazi Germany. If this is just like Nazi Germany, why am I not seeing any Anne Franks? Well, actually, it would make sense that I wouldn't be seeing any Anne Franks. It's kind of the point of an Anne Frank. But you know what I mean. I joke, but I'm serious. Supposedly things are all tense and scary right now, but these illegal immigrants really seem to be out in these streets just loving life. I don't think that's World War II vibes.
Then they moved her to transfer her to an ICE detention center near Columbus, Georgia. An arrest report from Tunnel Hill Police says something similar happened to her father just weeks before.
Something similar happened to our father just weeks before. Yes, let's talk about that.
Just 2 weeks ago, Arias-Cristobal's family tells us that they went through a similar situation with her father. They tell us that he was exceeding the speed limit here in Tunnel Hill and when he got pulled over during a traffic stop. And during that traffic stop, he did not have a driver's license. Arias-Cristobal and her father are now both at the Stewart Detention Facility near Columbus.
They reunited the family. Just kidding, but kinda. That happened just 2 weeks before. And then she ends up getting pulled over for driving without a license. And then when she's on the phone with her mom, when she was getting arrested, her mom was telling her, in Spanish of course, I told you.
I know, I'm sorry, Mommy.
That's literally what her mother told her. So she knew not to be out there. And when they ended the phone conversation, her mom actually said to her, let's see if they don't take you and put you where they put your dad.
Okay, bye, Mommy.
So this girl clearly doesn't respect the laws and doesn't really care what she's being told anyway. And I know some people are going to be like, well, we were all like that when we were young. Yeah, but if you were like me, then you're a citizen. So you could get away with being like that when you're young. If you're here illegally, what I would think you would want to do is be on your best behavior so you don't get in any trouble and so you don't raise any red flags. But clearly, this girl is not willing to do that. And it's not something I hold against her. I don't think she's a terrible person, but I do think that maybe the laws in Mexico will be a little more lax or a little more to her liking, and then she doesn't have to worry about our stuffy laws and not being able to drive here. She was running an unnecessary errand when this happened. happen. And when the officer asked her about it, she said what it was, and then he was like, you had to do that? And then she was like, well, I didn't have to, but I wanted to. So it's as easy as that. Just go back. Like I said, this is another Quien, Manda. Who told you to do that? So the way I see it is she's in ICE detention, her dad's in ICE detention, take them back as a pair. The rest of the family can catch up when they have a minute. Before we go any further, I'm just going to ask that you like, comment, and subscribe. We're on our way to 100,000 subscribers. We're right at 81,000 subscribers. Thank you all very much. When you hit the subscribe button, click the bell and select all notifications so that you know every time I upload. Now let's get back to this mess of a story.
We have team coverage of this story as it continues to develop tonight with News Channel 9's Mary Beth Mangrum and Sarah Hauer. We'll check in with Sarah in just a moment.
First, though, it's often the first question after something like this happens. Why didn't the teenager take the steps to get legal citizenship? As News Channel 9's Mary Beth Mangrum explains tonight, experts say in this case, she didn't have a choice. Mary Beth.
Kim, Josh, family of Arias-Cristobal tells us that she and her parents came here from Mexico City in 2010 when she was just 4 years old. Because of that timing, it made her ineligible for the DACA program.
And I'm glad they brought up DACA because that's something that I want to talk about really quick, and how you know that the Democrats do not really care about illegal immigrants the way that they claim to. And the reason I say this is because DACA was from 2012. It was an executive order that Obama had signed. And since then, there's been 13 years, obviously, in between. Now, this girl herself would not have qualified for DACA anyway. But my point is, since 2013, they have not come up with either a path to citizenship or some sort of permanent resolution for DACA. So as soon as they saw for themselves how serious the Trump administration was being when it came to immigration, did they jump on it and suddenly start being like, okay, we really need to come up with some sort of solution? No. Instead, they worry about people like Abrego Garcia, an MS-13 gang member, is who you're worried about when you have DACA people that you could possibly work on a solution for. And I think that if they had somebody actually talk to President Trump with some respect, they might be able to hammer out a solution. And I know some people would be like, well, Trump's not going to be open to that and he's not reasonable. Trump is actually a very reasonable man. And I think the best example that I can give for that, which is pretty unrelated, but at the same time shows you how reasonable he can be. If you've ever heard the story of Alice Marie Johnson. Alice Marie Johnson was a woman that got busted back in 1996 for being part of a Memphis booger sugar trafficking operation. And Alice Marie Johnson was set to be in prison for life until 2018. And then Jared Kushner and Kim Kardashian somehow ended up hearing about the case, and they both started talking to President Trump about it. And then Kim Kardashian went down to the White House and she talked to Donald Trump personally about it. And then Donald Trump decided to grant Alice Marie Johnson clemency, commuting her sentence effective immediately, and she was a free woman. Cut to February 2025, President Donald Trump decides to make Alice Marie Johnson his pardon czar. So it's her job to make recommendations to Trump for pardons. So what I'm trying to say is, we'll see if she can push this Derek Chauvin thing through. Don't get mad. Don't switch off. It was a It was a joke. I don't know why you guys can't take jokes. Go to CNN if you want something more serious. Sorry, CNN and serious just don't go together. But my point is, if you know what Trump's stance was on dealers, and then you think about the fact that not only did he grant Alice Marie Johnson clemency at first, he moved on to full pardon for her. She's living a good life, doing speaking engagements, released a book, and then he made her the pardon czar. It just shows you that he can be very reasonable, and at points he really can have a heart. So maybe one of the Democrats that really wanted to stand up for immigrants and wanted to put their money where their mouth is would go ahead and find their I know how to respect people hat and go talk to President Trump and see if they could make anything happen. I know it sounds crazy to respect President Donald Trump, but maybe if you really cared about immigrants that much, you would find it in yourself to do that. But you don't, because it's not about immigrants. It really is about headlines. And you can get headlines for trying to help out an MS-13 gang member. If you do something as mundane as try to help out people that have been waiting for this help for at least the last 13 years, you're probably not going to get a lot of headlines. So I get it.
The attorney representing her says without that, there is no legal pathway for her or people in this situation.
And that's why I said that her and her family should just take the money and run. I'm sure everybody that donated to that GoFundMe would be 100% cool if her family just said, look, there's no path to citizenship. We could possibly just take this money, have a good life in Mexico. You think about it, they could move to a suburb of a resort town in Mexico. She is obviously very well versed in English since she's been living here for 15 years. There's also that she was very respectful. I will give her that. She was very respectful when she was dealing with the officer. So she does carry herself with a bit of class. She knows how to behave in public. And so I would think that she would be very marketable. So if they just take some of that money, put a down payment on a house in Mexico right outside of a resort town, maybe use some of that money to let her finish her school in Mexico. All kidding aside, this could be a real plan. And who knows, maybe one day come back the right way. Maybe what they could use that immigration attorney for is to see how quickly they could have her and her father released into Mexico. I have seen since then that her father is going to get bond. He was being held without bond at first, and now they're going to be giving him bond, or they may have given him bond yesterday. But what I would do, since you're kind of in a losing situation, because I don't really see them finding a way that these two people are going to be able to stay in the country. So what I would use that immigration attorney for was to see how quickly you could get them released in Mexico. You take some of that money and move all your belongings to whichever town it is you're going to live in Mexico, and figure out a plan for that. She also said when she was getting arrested that she had $7,000 in her room.
Mami, los $7,000 están donde está mi Biblia al lado de mi lámpara, abajo en ese cajón, abajo de unos libros, ahí están los $7,000.
Which I don't know where this girl got $7,000, maybe student loans or something, but she had $7,000 in cash in her room. So add the $7,000 to the pot. Then also see if maybe you can cash in on that self-deport option and get your $1,000 in a plane ticket. Use the $1,000 towards the movers. Use the plane ticket to actually get yourself there. That way you don't have to drive the moving truck or worry about any of that. I mean, we got to think here.
There's been no new individuals approved. So even if she was eligible, she wouldn't have been able to apply for it.
Atlanta attorney Charles Cook is representing Ximena Arias-Cristobal. He says she has no option for legal citizenship. That's because her family says her parents came here illegally from Mexico City when she was 4 in 2010. The DACA program only applied to people here before 2007.
The program itself has been frozen since essentially 2017, when President Trump tried to end the program at that point, and it's just basically limping along with those that had received DACA before that date.
We also asked that attorney about the international license Arias-Cristobal says she believed was valid.
If you have a foreign driver's license or you don't have a foreign driver's license, you can just apply for international license. It's meaningless under the law of Georgia or the law of Tennessee. It's not a real thing.
See? It's not a valid license, and I'm sure she knew that. We are not dealing with a dumb girl here, you guys. And also, I keep saying girl, but she's really a woman. She's 19 years old. She's in college. She can read. She knew that license wasn't any good. And I personally wouldn't be surprised if she didn't even have an international driver's license.
And what it could take to get her out.
To prove somebody's not a flight risk and they're not a danger to the community. Those are the only two criteria. Well, she's clearly not a danger to the community, and we have a massive number of support letters.
See, and in my opinion, this is where the news should ask, and what is the next step after you get her out? Because if there's no path to citizenship, what kind of life is she really going to have here, even if she's allowed to stay for a little longer? And what is he doing other than just siphoning off some of that GoFundMe money? If there really is no path to citizenship, then there's no path to citizenship.
And how has that been for you and your sister?
Well, it's been hard. A lot. Oh, sorry. Oh, you know, my sister's gone and it's just a lot of weight on me.
Yeah, save the waterworks, hun. Which, of course, again, I'm joking. I know I have to keep telling you guys that or else people think I'm being serious. I'm not that heartless. I don't think this is funny. But I do think that they have this poor little girl crying on TV for absolutely no reason, because crying isn't going to help this situation. All this is doing is possibly driving up their ratings for the night so that people will actually watch their newscast.
With 2 family members now in the Stewart Detention Center, Ximena Arias-Cristobal's family and friends worry about her future.
She doesn't qualify for the Dreamer and the DACA protections, so there really is no pathway to citizenship for these individuals.
See, I'm telling you guys, that lawyer is doing absolutely nothing other than cleaning them out.
She is not a danger to the community. You know, she's been here for 15 years.
Debatable. When he says she's not a danger to the community, I understand. She's probably not going to do anything as far as a physical threat, but if she's driving without a license, there's probably a good chance that she's driving without insurance. So if she should happen to get in an accident with anybody and it's her fault, then how's that person going to be compensated? So even though she's not a physical danger to anybody, she could possibly be a financial danger to somebody, and she clearly doesn't understand that. That's not something that she's going to take into account because she's in those ages where people don't really think about other people. And do you really think that if she's released, she's not gonna drive again? Do you really think she's gonna do anything other than go back to living life exactly the way she was living life before she got arrested? Sure, she may have a week or two where she completely cools her heels, but eventually she's gonna go back to being her again and just living her regular life, because she's gonna know that there are no consequences, and all she has to do is get on TV again, and people will donate more money, and it'll be another ordeal, and then there'll be another chance for her to stay. So she might as well just go back home now.
And as it stands, Georgia Republican Representative Casey Carpenter says Arias-Cristobal had no pathway to live in the U.S. legally.
That's the argument that you hear all the time from people on the other side is, well, they've been here 15 years. Why haven't they become a citizen? Because it's impossible.
And that's a state representative telling you that. So everybody knows that it's not possible for her to stay here, but she wants to be released here in the United States. For what reason? And it's also the reason that he, as a Republican, is completely safe to say this kind of thing, because he can make it sound like he's sympathetic towards it, and he may genuinely be. I'm not saying that he's disingenuous. I don't know the man. I'm not familiar with him, but he can express sympathy with relative safety, because at the end of the day, his hands are tied. There's nothing they can do about it. Which again leads me back to exactly why is she wanting to be released back into the United States if she's going to have no options or no pathway to citizenship?
It's something he's seeing more of in his district, where more than half of the residents are Hispanic.
I probably get 6 or 7 calls a week from people that have been detained.
And he says it's a growing problem under current administration.
And so it's a fundraising ploy for the feds, so they don't want to touch it. They know it's a passionate issue. So we're handcuffed at the state level on what we can do.
More than half of the residents in his district are Hispanic. So like I told you, this is just an opportunity for him to get a couple political points, because he can't do anything about it anyway.
Family of Arias-Cristobal tells us she has an immigration court date set for June 11th, but her attorney hopes to get her out on bond before that. Josh?
Well, that's the story, and it's unfortunate, you know, and one thing that they didn't talk about on this particular story that I saw on another one when I was checking everything out for this video is that she has 2 younger sisters that are actually citizens of the United States. They were born here. But for me, that's not hard to deal with either. People always make it seem like that's this big situation, But really, it's as simple as either you have a couple of family members or very close family friends that can possibly take care of the young ones for you here in the United States so they can complete their schooling or do whatever they want to do, or you just take them back to Mexico with you. I don't know why everybody makes it seem like that's such a hard thing. Like, I know for me, when I was a kid, if my parents ever had to go anywhere, I just would have gone with them. There would have been no questions asked about that. And again, even though everybody will try to tug at your heartstrings and make it seem like you're supposed to be incredibly sympathetic to this and it's supposed to be the biggest thing in the world, it's really not that big of a thing at all. Her parents shouldn't have brought her here when she was that young. There hasn't been an amnesty since, I think it was 2000. It was Bill Clinton, I think it was in 2000, that was the last amnesty. And I get it. Maybe you thought that there was going to be another amnesty or a path to citizenship, so you took a gamble. But that's the thing with gambling, is sometimes you lose. And I also get that you wanted a better life for your daughter and for your family. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be the country that's going to give you that better life. And her dad is supposed to be released on bond, but I'm not really sure why they're releasing him on bond either. I'm not really sure why they're not just taking him to Mexico, because he has a business here in the United States, which I don't know how you end up with a business here in the United States if you're not legal. But he has a business, and at a point, he had applied for a visa, a work visa, so that I guess he could continue to run his business or run it in the most legal way possible. But he had been turned down. So if you've been turned down for a visa, you definitely know that you are not legal to be in this country. So in my opinion, that kind of sounds like your due process. Am I wrong on that? Let me know in the comments what you guys think. But I don't really think that I'm wrong on that if you've been turned down for the visa and you know in all ways that you've tried, you haven't been able to secure legal status, then what more due process do you need? So again, I circled back to, what are we really discussing? Because if President Trump were to let her and her father and her mother make all of them legal, why wouldn't everybody else just be like, well, if you can do it for them, then you can do it for us? And then we end up back in that exact same situation that we were already in. So in my opinion, what has to be done is that people have to indiscriminately just be taken out of the country when they're found to be here illegally. That's the only solution, is just without any exception, if you snuck into the country, then it's time for you to go. And if we end up finding you, then you're going to be removed. And I don't know why there's supposed to be so much rigmarole about it and exactly how much money we as taxpayers are supposed to spend on these people's due process that it seems in most of these cases has already been run through in some form or another. It's not really fair to us as taxpayers that these people can decide to just come here knowing that they have no legal right or reason to be here, and then we have to pay to get them out. But maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe my heart is just too cold at this point. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. I am anxious to hear from you guys. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to see a video of me talking about Carmelo Anthony's school, bending the knee and letting him graduate with the others, click the video on your screen. Other than that, thank you for watching. This has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.
They bought into his bullshit.